Greetings, I'm Tim of Govberg, and welcome to the world of Hublot. Today, I'll be your guide to the features and facets of the Hublot Big Bang Meca 10 in titanium. This 45mm titanium timepiece features a unique Hublot-engineered, Hublot-constructed 10-day power reserve caliber 1201. It's expressed on the open dial side as well as the case back. But before we get into the details of the defining movement, let's talk about some of the accessories, starting with the clasp. Now, the clasp, like the case itself, is rendered in titanium. Hublot marquis on the top, twin trigger release for positive disengagement and absolute security when closed. It features a clever titanium lower clasp body that not only features the Hublot H marquis, but also a strap minder system that tucks any excess underneath the clasp when buckled and obviates the need for awkward minder loops on the strap. Now, rubber is a signature of Hublot. Natural vulcanized rubber, strong and supple, is a tradition dating back to the very first landmark Hublot models of the early 1980s. And you'll note this one is highly evolved, featuring a biplanar design. It also features horizontal striations to visually articulate it just a little bit more and add some aesthetic animus. Moreover, you'll note the clever automotive seatbelt inspired quick release system, so you can rapidly swap out the strap to change the shoes, perhaps with a leather. There's a universe of accessory straps available on Hublot's website as well as at your authorized Hublot dealer. And you can also deeply clean the strap and the lugs with this detachment system. Plus, it buckles back in as easily as it popped out with a reassuring click. Now, normally, Hublot tries to express the machine from the inside, bringing it out with the modular construction of its case, fully expressing the titanium plates, the bezel gasket, the assembly screws, the polymer insert. But in this case, the main event is squarely within the bezel itself. Contained within the bezel, with its H-pattern Hublot titanium assembly bolts, you can see the caliber 1201 of 223 parts, 24 pivot joules. It has an extraordinary power reserve of 10 days. Now, the power reserve is expressed in two different fashions. At 3 o'clock, there's an aperture that becomes visible and red when the watch reaches only 2 days of power reserve. Up to that point, and then in tandem for the last 2 days, there is a radial power reserve scale at 6 o'clock. Now, as you wind the watch up to its maximum rated 10 days of power reserve, you'll note how the power reserve scale in the red aperture at 6 o'clock slowly revolves to reveal the skeletonized hour, denoting the current number of days power stored in the watch's twin parallel mainspring barrels. But it's not so much the expression of the power reserves, clever though they are, as it is the design theme of this movement that makes it unique. Now, whereas many watches are designed to emulate the spirit and some of the design cues of the big boy's toy, the automobile, this one is more literal because, as so many of us enjoyed during our youth, Meccano, or as most North Americans would better understand it, something like an erector set, is a longtime favorite of mechanically inclined youngsters, and this watch expresses that in its beautiful punched-out transverse bridges designed to recall that Meccano or erector set imagery. You can see likewise how the twin mainspring barrels, enabling that 10-day power reserve, have both been evacuated and skeletonized, almost like the spokes of automotive Meccano or erector set wheels. You'll note the materials innovations originally introduced in the Unico are maintained, as you can see the iridescent purplish blue of the unlubricated silicon escapement, the pallet and the escape wheel, on its own separate portion of the bridge with its own separate pivot joules, unlubricated for long-wearing durability and high efficiency. And on the dial side, you can again see how that mechanical aesthetic has been expressed in the form of a rack and pinion system at 12 o'clock that directly drives the power reserve scale at 3 o'clock. And you can see the flow of power from the rack and pinion through the 2-day power reserve featuring the inset Hublot H logo down to the 10-day power reserve wheel at 6 o'clock. You can all see the fully expressed small seconds sitting atop the expressed balance, again completely open. There's nothing but a sapphire crystal between the owner of this watch and the beating heart of its movement. And again, if the automobile is the toy for big boys, this is also the toy for big boys that reminds us of the ones we loved and perhaps still secretly love. The timepiece features 100-meter water resistance, which means that in addition to its technical aesthetic, it's also ready to get wet and wild. With 100-meter resistance, it's suitable for almost all activities short of outright professional diving, and of course it has an aesthetic unlike any other. You can see this and the entire Hublot family of model lines on our website.